Welcome back, everyone. The iPhone 11 is an older iPhone, but the iPhone SE 3 just came out. So let's go and see how both these iPhones compare. These are both the cheapest iPhones you can buy in the brand new market. If you walk into the Apple Store, these are your two cheapest options. Now, I will leave some links in the description if you want to buy them on Amazon. They should be a little bit cheaper there. Links will be down in the description. You can get them from there, help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, you can easily tell quite a few differences. The iPhone 11 is a much bigger phone, and this will kind of give you an idea of how much bigger the iPhone 11 is. You have a 6.1-inch IPS panel on the iPhone 11. The resolution is somewhat about the same on both of these 750p kind of panels. And with the iPhone 11, you're definitely getting a better panel. This thing looks better, it looks way more modern. And if you're trying to get an iPhone and pretty much move on with your life, for the next several years, both these iPhones are going to be lasting pretty much the same. The iPhone SE 3 is going to be lasting longer in terms of software, but design-wise, the iPhone 11 already wins. This is a big thing to keep in mind. You know, this great panel still, it's not amazing, it's not an AMOLED, but it still looks very good. The iPhone SE 3, on the other hand, has a much smaller 4.7-inch IPS panel. Now, I would say that the panel is good on the iPhone SE 3. It's not an ugly panel, but everything surrounding the panel is definitely outdated. The bezel on the bottom and top are very thick, even compared to something like an iPhone 11 that already kind of has thicker panels as well. But also the home button on the iPhone SE 3. There may be a lot of people who look at the home button as like a feature, and that's definitely a feature if you're into it. But I will tell you, there's going to be a point where iPhones are not going to have home buttons anymore, so that's also going to happen. I think with the SE 3 it's good, but again, $429, there's a $70 difference between these two. It definitely looks a lot more than $70. In terms of thickness and thickness, the iPhone SE 3 is a much thinner phone and a much smaller phone as well, so some people may actually prefer that. As you can see, this will give you kind of a glimpse of how much thinner and smaller the iPhone SE 3 is. And even on the back, you can tell that they do have a little bit of a different coloring system. They're both technically the white color for both of these models, but the iPhone SE 3 looks like it has a little bit of a darker, this is the Starlight model, has a little bit of a darker white to it, almost like a light gray in a way. The iPhone 11 does have the dual camera setup on the back. The iPhone SE 3 has that single camera setup on the back, so we'll talk about that in a second. Lightning ports at the bottom, no headphone jacks. Both these have IP certification, wireless charging, and no MagSafe capability. Now that kind of covers it up on the outside. Now with the iPhone 11, one kind of particular thing about this phone, and very interesting, is that the design is much more current than the iPhone 11, but the software is not going to last as long as the iPhone SE 3, which is actually very interesting. This phone physically looks much more newer, and it looks like it's going to last longer, but that's not going to be the case. Apple does their software based on the chipset inside. This thing has the Apple A13 chip inside of it, whereas on the iPhone SE 3, this thing actually has that Apple A15 bionic chip inside of it, so a couple of years newer on this chipset. So that's kind of an advantage that you have on a phone like this. You're going to be getting kind of a longer lasting phone on the iPhone SE 3 than on the iPhone 11. Is that a big deal? It's going to be a couple of years, maybe like a year or two. I would definitely not say more than 3 years. It's pretty much going to be capped at like 2 years, I would say, difference between these. But it could be more, could be less, who knows? It's hard to tell right now. So again, that's one thing to keep in mind. I would definitely tell you as of right now, both these phones are going to be supported with software. They're really not going anywhere anytime soon, but that is one particular thing to keep in mind. So in terms of software, that kind of covers it out there. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these phones. The iPhone 11 has that Apple A13 bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone SE 3 has that Apple A15 bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM as well. So let's go and see which one is a faster iPhone between both of these. Okay, there we go. All the apps will be cleared out in the background in like 2 seconds. I don't know why they're still all full like this. There we go. They all should be cleared out by now. So now let's get into it. Let's do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. Kind of the same thing, not that big of a difference. Let's go and get into music, 3, 2, 1. And it kind of looks like the iPhone 11 was faster, but the SE 3, this may be the first time we load it into the music, so that could be why we got that little bit of a different panel. Let's do their app stores, 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone SE 3 was faster. Digging into this newer notification there. I don't know, I've never seen that panel before, maybe because of iOS 15.4. Let's go get into this thing. Kind of the same thing. Now look at the speed when we go home. So 3, 2, 1. Look how much faster you're able to go home on the iPhone 11. That's because we have to wait on the home button, animation on the iPhone SE 3. Kind of annoying. That's one thing about the iPhone SE 3 with the home button. Let's do camera. 3, 2, 1. Kind of the same thing. Hopping out of there. Let's do mail. 3, 2, 1. iPhone SE 3 faster, but again, look at the way we go home. So much faster on the iPhone SE. So much faster on the iPhone 11. Let's do clock. 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing. Hopping out of here. Let's do settings. 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing too. Now, as always, we have a bunch of these third-party applications we can go and get into. So let's get into it. Let's do Facebook 3, 2, 1. And we were logged into an account here, as always. Let's do Fruit Ninja 3, 2, 1. And it looks like the SE3 may be the faster one here. And it's definitely getting into the panels much faster. And it was faster on the iPhone SE3. iPhone 11 a little bit behind. So definitely seeing some cool improvements from an A13 to an A15. Let's do stack 3, 2, 1. And the SE3 was faster. iPhone 11 a little bit behind. Thank you 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone SE3 again is the faster one here. iPhone 11 a little bit behind. Good to see that, I guess. Let's do Netflix 3, 2, 1. And the SE3 was faster again. Let's do Snake vs. Blocks 3, 2, 1. There we go. Hopping out of this one. Let's do Netflix 3, 2, 1, which I think I already did. Okay, so let's go hop out of this one. Let's do Dropbox 3, 2, 1. And iPhone SE3 again was a faster one. BOFA, which I do have 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 11, I guess, was faster here, and the iPhone SE3 was a little bit behind. Very, very interesting. So Temper on 2, 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone SE, actually the iPhone SE3 is faster. Sorry, I was tripping out right there. The SE3 is definitely faster here. iPhone 11, a bit behind actually. That was pretty noticeable. Let's do Snapchat 3, 2. I don't have it here, which is very, very weird. Let's do Instagram, which I am logged in on here. So, I mean, ultimately, what I'll definitely tell you is I think the iPhone 11 was slower every single time, which is very interesting. So it's actually not interesting at all. We pretty much know that the iPhone 11 is going to be slower because it has the newer chipset on the iPhone SE3. We're expecting that phone to be faster. I still think it was pretty comparable though. I don't think the iPhone SE3 was running circles around the iPhone 11, but there were a couple times like with the Temple Run 2 update or game, the iPhone 11 was a little bit behind. So definitely a huge plus for the iPhone SE3 for sure. So that covers it up there. I will do a full speed comparison between them and a full camera comparison, but in the meantime, the iPhone 11 does have that dual camera setup on the back, a 12 megapixel wide and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor, where the iPhone SE3 has that 12 megapixel wide angle lens. They both can do 4K at 60 on the front, but the iPhone 11 can do 4K at 60 on the front. Well, I meant the front and the back. The iPhone SE3 can only do 4K at 60 on the back. It can only do 1080p on the front of that camera. Now with the iPhone 11, the best thing about this phone, besides everything else in the battery life, is the camera. The camera on this thing is very good. Having the ability of doing 4K at 60 on the front and the back is awesome, and it future-proofs this phone forever, basically. We have that ultra-wide sensor as well, which is awesome. No telephoto lens, but still the ultra-wide sensor is more than enough, and I love this camera for sure. It's easily one of the best cameras still for a $500 phone. You still have things like portrait mode, video mode, as you can see, so you still have a lot of capability within this phone. And I've talked about this phone heavily. I did a full review of this phone already too. Now with something like the iPhone SE3, I mean, this is a good camera too, but for $429, for the difference between these two, I mean, it's pretty big. We're getting 4K 60 on the front of the iPhone 11, and we're getting an extra camera sensor too. The iPhone SE3 doesn't really do anything extra, or I wouldn't even say it's that much better quality. From what I use this camera with, and I haven't really used it a crazy amount, but from the little bit of time I've used with it, I've only had it for about 12 hours. I've only had it for like 6 hours. I definitely do think this camera isn't a crazy big difference from the SE2. I would say the quality is very similar, but again, you're lacking that extra lens and you're lacking 4K on the front. So definitely some big things to keep in mind. And to be honest, this is actually a very interesting scenario because on one hand, you're getting an iPhone that, it just looks better. It's a better looking iPhone. It has better battery life. It has a better camera setup for sure. It's just an overall better iPhone, except for the speed and longevity. The iPhone SE3 is a faster phone, but the iPhone 11 is still more than fast enough in my opinion. The iPhone SE3 is going to be lasting long, but the iPhone 11 is still going to be lasting for a long time as well. I would say for the things that I would typically use a phone with, the iPhone 11, like I mentioned, is more than enough. I love the design of the iPhone 11. I love how it looks. I love how it feels. The iPhone SE3 though is still a very good iPhone. It's just not really a great value. That's basically the best way I can put it. I think it's a good iPhone, having this design and everything. If you like it, then you like it. But one thing is not debatable is the price tag. It's $429. I feel like Apple could have made this like $249 or something, and it probably would have been, but they're still going to sell a lot of this thing. So I think definitely when it comes down to it, It's a good phone, but $429 for the $70 difference between these two, I think you're getting a better phone overall on the iPhone 11. Just because it's not as fast as the iPhone SE3 doesn't mean that it's not a better phone. The iPhone 11 is still more than fast enough and everything. So that kind of covers it up there in my opinion. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.